There are women walking this earth right now who don't even realize how heaven smiles every time they rise in the morning. Women who carry something sacred inside them, not in fame, not in fashion, but in faith. You may not wear a crown on your head, but there's one already set for you in eternity. You may not feel noticed, but heaven has recorded your tears, your patience, your hidden sacrifices. The world may have ignored you, but God has never stopped watching you. There's something about a woman who endures storms with grace, who fights battles silently, but still carries peace in her spirit. These are the women who are very blessed, because blessing isn't always about money, position, or praise. Blessing is about what's on you that can't be taken away. It's the strength to keep walking when others gave up. It's the ability to still believe after heartbreak. It's that quiet fire that says, God's not done with me yet. A blessed woman finds her strength not in circumstances, not in applause, and not in what people say about her, but in her unwavering faith in God. Her strength is not loud, it's steady. It's not found in comfort, but in her capacity to keep trusting even when everything around her shakes. The world defines strength by success, confidence, or dominance, but divine strength is different. It's the power to keep standing when the storm tries to knock you down. It's the courage to smile through tears, to forgive after betrayal, and to believe again after being broken. A woman of faith understands that the storms in her life are not meant to destroy her, but to deepen her roots. The winds may rage, but her foundation is anchored in something unshakable, her trust in God. Every trial she faces doesn't weaken her, it trains her. Every disappointment doesn't end her, it defines her. She learns to see pain not as punishment, but as preparation. While others see loss, she sees growth. When others see delay, she sees destiny unfolding in disguise. Because her faith has taught her that God's timing is never late, it's always perfect. There are moments when her faith is tested, when prayers go unanswered, when promises seem distant, when her heart feels heavy. Yet even in those moments, she whispers, Lord, I still trust you. That whisper is more powerful than any shout of victory, because faith doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means choosing to believe even when afraid. It's standing on the edge of uncertainty and still saying, God, you are good. A blessed woman understands that her peace doesn't come from a life without problems, but from knowing she's never alone in them. Her strength is built in the hidden moments, the ones nobody sees. When she prays through tears at midnight, when she forgives someone who doesn't deserve it, when she chooses to love instead of hate, those are the moments heaven records. The world may not see her strength, but God does. And because of that, He keeps pouring grace into her heart. Grace becomes her armor. She doesn't crumble under pressure because grace holds her up. She doesn't lose herself in pain because grace reminds her that there's purpose in every season. Even when everything seems against her, she refuses to quit. Her faith becomes her vision when life looks blurry. She walks by faith, not by sight, because sight shows the struggle, but faith sees the outcome. She may cry, but she doesn't curse her situation. She may bend, but she doesn't break. She may question, but she never loses hope. Her faith makes her resilient. It gives her the strength to rise again after every fall. It reminds her that failure is not final and that weakness is just a doorway to divine strength. She understands that trusting God doesn't mean life will always make sense. It means believing that even in confusion, God is still in control. She doesn't need all the answers because she knows the one who holds them. Her strength comes from surrender, from letting go of what she can't control and leaving it in God's hands. She doesn't fight for attention or recognition because her confidence comes from knowing God sees her. She doesn't rush ahead because she's learned that waiting on God is never wasted time. What makes her truly strong is not that she has never fallen, but that she refuses to stay down. Every time life knocks her down, she rises again, not because she has to prove herself, but because she knows her story isn't over. She believes that if she's still breathing, God is still working. That faith becomes her shield in battle and her peace in the storm. Her strength and faith makes her unstoppable, not because she's perfect, but because she's anchored. No matter what the world throws at her, she doesn't lose her fire. She may have moments of weakness, but she always returns to her source. Her heart may achy, but her hope remains alive. That's what it means to be a blessed woman, to walk through the storm without losing your song, to face the darkness without losing your light, and to trust God so deeply that even when everything falls apart, you still stand tall. A blessed woman radiates grace, peace, and humility because she has learned that true beauty isn't about how loud you can speak, but how softly you can carry strength. Her spirit has been shaped by both fire and faith. Life may have given her battles that could have hardened her heart, but instead she chose gentleness. She doesn't carry bitterness, she carries grace. She doesn't respond with pride, she responds with peace. And that is what makes her different from the world around her. Her strength is wrapped in kindness, and her confidence is clothed in humility. Grace flows from her because she understands what it means to be forgiven. She has experienced God's mercy firsthand, and that has taught her how to extend mercy to others. When people wrong her, she doesn't rush to revenge. She releases them to God. When others offend her, she doesn't let anger linger. She lets love lead. Her heart stays light because she refuses to carry grudges. She knows that unforgiveness poisons peace, and she values her peace too much to let bitterness steal it. Her peace is her protection, and her humility is her crown. The world often confuses meekness with weakness, but she knows they are not the same. Humility doesn't make her small, it makes her wise. It gives her the power to respond with calm when provoked and to stay silent when words could wound. Her silence is not surrender to people, it's submission to God, because she trusts that God will defend her when she keeps her heart pure. She doesn't have to prove her worth or fight for validation. Her value is secure in heaven's eyes, and that's enough for her. Her grace draws people in without her trying. She doesn't demand attention. Her spirit naturally commands respect. There's something about her peace that disarms tension. There's something about her humility that speaks louder than pride ever could. She can walk into a room filled with chaos and change the atmosphere, not by force, but by presence. Her calmness becomes contagious, her kindness becomes inspiring, and her gentle spirit becomes a safe place for those who are weary. That's the power of grace. It heals without speaking and restores without shouting. Her humility doesn't mean she doesn't know her worth. It means she doesn't have to boast about it. She knows who she is in God, chosen, loved, and redeemed. And that's why she doesn't need to compete with others. She celebrates others' blessings because she knows theirs don't threaten her own. She walks in quiet confidence, understanding that what God has for her cannot be stolen, delayed, or denied. She doesn't seek to be above anyone. She seeks to serve. She leads not with control, but with compassion. Peace follows her wherever she goes because she has learned how to guard her heart. She doesn't let negativity take root, and she doesn't entertain drama. Her focus is fixed on what truly matters, walking in love, living in truth, and staying in alignment with God's will. She knows that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of God in every moment. That's why she can smile even when her world is shaking. Her peace is anchored in promises that cannot fail. Even when people misunderstand her quietness, she doesn't let that disturb her spirit. She knows that being at peace with God is more important than being understood by everyone else. Her humility keeps her teachable, her grace keeps her approachable, and her peace keeps her unshaken. She doesn't react to every insult or respond to every attack because she knows that not every battle deserves her energy. Some things are better handed to God than handled alone. And in that quiet surrender, she farms power. Her grace disarms her enemies. Her peace confuses those who expect chaos. Her humility draws favor from heaven. She may not stand on stages or wear crowns, but she walks with a presence that heaven recognizes. Because a woman who carries grace carries God's reflection. A woman who lives in peace carries divine strength. And a woman who walks in humility walks hand in hand with heaven. That's why she shines even without trying, because her light doesn't come from the world. It comes from within. The grace she gives is the same grace that sustains her. The peace she carries is the same peace that protects her. The humility she lives by is the same humility that invites God's favor into her life. She doesn't need to prove she's blessed. Her very presence says it all. A blessed woman knows her worth in God, and that truth changes everything about how she walks, speaks, and lives. She doesn't let people define her value because she already knows who she is, a daughter of the King, loved, chosen, and equipped. Her worth is not up for debate, and it cannot be reduced by rejection or increased by approval. She walks with quiet confidence, not arrogance, because her identity is rooted in something unshakable, the love of God. When you know who you are in Him, you stop chasing what the world says you need to be. This woman has learned that her value is not determined by her past, her possessions, or her performance. She's not impressed by titles or distracted by comparison because she understands something far deeper, that identity in God is the only identity that lasts. People can change their opinions, situations can shift, but her worth stays constant. She knows that no mistake can erase God's love for her, and no failure can remove His calling from her life. That's why she stands tall even after being broken, and why she keeps believing even after being doubted. The world tells women to prove themselves, to look a certain way, achieve certain things, or meet certain standards. But a blessed woman has stopped performing for approval. She doesn't seek validation from people because she's already approved by heaven. She doesn't chase attention because she knows who she belongs to. She understands that being chosen by God is the highest honor, and no rejection from man can take that away. Her confidence doesn't come from compliments, it comes from covenant. There were times when she didn't feel worthy, when life stripped her of confidence and people made her question her value. But in those low places, she discovered something sacred, that God's love isn't based on her perfection, it's based on His purpose. When others walked away, He stayed. When others saw flaws, He saw potential. When she thought she was forgotten, He whispered, "You are mine." That revelation healed her heart. It taught her that her worth isn't fragile, it's divine. Because of that truth, she no longer lives in comparison. She doesn't measure herself by another woman's beauty, success, or blessings. She celebrates others without feeling less about herself. She knows that what God gives one person doesn't take away from what He has for another. Her contentment is her confidence. She's not in a race with anyone. She's walking her own path with peace. This kind of self-worth brings balance. It allows her to love deeply without losing herself. It lets her give freely without expecting anything in return. It allows her to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Her boundaries are firm because she knows she's worth protecting. She doesn't settle for less than what aligns with her purpose, and she doesn't cling to what God is removing. Because when you know your worth, you stop begging to be kept where you don't belong. Her confidence isn't loud, it's secure. It doesn't scream for attention, it simply shines. She can walk through a crowd unnoticed and still know she's valuable. She can face rejection and still keep her dignity. Her confidence comes from being anchored in the truth that she is loved by the one who never changes. That love frees her from insecurity. It frees her from comparison. It frees her from fear. And that freedom makes her radiant. When a woman knows her worth in God, she becomes unshakable. Life can disappoint her. People can misunderstand her. But she remains grounded. She doesn't crumble under pressure because her foundation isn't built on sand. It's built on Scripture. She knows that her Creator defines her, and because of that, no criticism can crush her spirit. The beauty of her worth is that it shines most in humility. She doesn't boast about who she is. She quietly lives it. Her peace, her posture, and her presence speak louder than any words could. She carries herself with grace because she knows she's walking in divine identity. That's the strength of a woman who knows her worth. She doesn't have to chase love, prove herself, or compete with anyone. She's already enough because God says she is. And when a woman walks in that truth, she doesn't just live, she glows. A blessed woman turns pain into purpose because she understands that nothing she goes through is wasted in the hands of God. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every tear has been part of shaping the woman she is today. She has walked through seasons that could have destroyed her, but instead they defined her. She learned to see pain not as punishment, but as a divine classroom where God teaches strength, patience, and faith. Her scars tell stories of survival, not shame. Her tears became prayers, and her brokenness became the birthplace of beauty. This woman has faced loss that took her breath away, betrayal that broke her heart, and loneliness that tested her faith. But even in those moments, something inside her refused to give up. She learned to take her pain to God instead of letting it poison her. When others let bitterness grow, she let her wounds become places where God could plant wisdom. She discovered that her pain wasn't meant to end her. It was meant to awaken her purpose. And through it all, she found herself stronger, wiser, and closer to God than she had ever been before. She realized that purpose doesn't come from comfort. It comes from endurance. The same fire that could have burned her down purified her instead. Her pain gave her compassion. It taught her to see others through eyes of understanding. She now knows how to comfort the hurting because she's been there. She knows how to speak life into broken hearts because she once needed those same words herself. Her purpose was born out of her deepest struggles, and that's what gives her story power. There was a time when she asked God, "Why me?" And later she found herself thanking him, saying, "Now I see." Because now she understands that every delay was protection, every rejection was direction, and every heartbreak was redirection. What she thought was a detour was actually the road to destiny. Pain changed her, not into someone bitter, but into someone better. It made her softer in spirit and stronger in soul. It stripped away pride and filled her with grace. It emptied her of control and filled her with trust. A blessed woman doesn't hide her pain or pretend she has it all together. She uses her past to help others rise from theirs. She knows that her story carries healing for someone else's heart. So instead of being ashamed of where she's been, she lets her journey become her ministry. Her scars don't make her less. They make her relatable. They remind others that it's possible to be wounded and still worship, to be broken and still believe, to be crushed and still carry light. She understands that God never wastes pain. What broke her yesterday is the same thing that built her today. What she cried over in the dark became the seed for what she now celebrates in the light. Her purpose didn't come wrapped in ease. It came wrapped in endurance. And because she walked through pain faithfully, she now walks in purpose powerfully. Pain taught her things that peace never could. It taught her how to pray with sincerity, how to forgive deeply, and how to love selflessly. It taught her to depend not on people, but on God. It revealed who was genuine and who was temporary. It showed her that strength isn't in never falling. It's in rising with grace every time she does. Now she lives with perspective. She no longer curses her past because she sees how it pushed her into purpose. She doesn't resent the struggle because it introduced her to strength she never knew she had. She doesn't fear future pain because she knows the God who brought her through before will do it again. Her confidence comes from experience. She has seen what God can do with broken pieces. A woman who turns pain into purpose becomes unstoppable. She no longer needs everything to be perfect to praise God. She knows how to worship even when it hurts because she trusts that pain is not the end. It's a bridge to the next blessing. That's why she walks with peace now. She's not bitter about her past. She's grateful for it. It didn't break her. It built her. Her life has become a testimony that what once hurt her now helps her, and what once wounded her now wins souls for God. She is living proof that God can take ashes and create beauty, turn pain into purpose, and make every storm serve his plan. A blessed woman is anchored in prayer and surrender because she has discovered that real power doesn't come from control. It comes from letting go. She doesn't need to have everything figured out because she knows the one who holds everything together. Her strength is not in doing more, but in trusting deeper. She has learned that prayer isn't just something she does, it's who she is. It's her lifeline, her refuge, her secret place where her heart meets heaven. When life becomes heavy, she doesn't collapse under the weight. She carries it to God in prayer and finds peace in his presence. Her prayer life isn't loud or showy. It's consistent and intimate. She doesn't pray to be seen. She prays to stay strong. She knows that prayer changes her before it changes her circumstances. It clears her vision, calms her emotions, and reminds her of who's really in control. Every time she kneels, she's surrendering her plans, her pain, her fears, and her future to God. She understands that when she prays, she's not losing control. She's giving it to the one who can handle it better. And because of that surrender, she walks in peace that others can't understand. Her surrender doesn't come from weakness, it comes from wisdom. She knows that fighting for control only leads to frustration, so she chooses to trust even when the path is unclear. She's seen God's faithfulness too many times to doubt his plan now. She knows that when things fall apart, it's often because God is building something new. Her prayer is not, God, give me what I want, but God, let your will be done. That level of surrender takes maturity, and that's what makes her blessed. When life tests her, she doesn't panic, she prays. When she's unsure, she doesn't overthink, she waits. When others try to control outcomes, she releases them. Her strength lies in her stillness, her calmness in the middle of chaos, because she has learned that no amount of worrying can change what only prayer can fix. Her peace doesn't come from knowing the future. It comes from knowing God is already there. Every breakthrough she's ever had began with a prayer whispered in faith. She has cried tears that no one saw, spoken prayers that no one heard, and yet heaven moved on her behalf. She understands that God listens to every word, even the ones she can't express. Her prayers aren't always polished. Sometimes they're just quiet whispers from a tired heart. But even those simple prayers are powerful because God looks not at the form of her words, but at the sincerity of her heart. She lives a life of surrender, not because she's given up, but because she's given it over. Surrender means she no longer tries to fix what only God can heal. It means she stops striving for what she's already been promised. She doesn't rush his timing because she knows that delay doesn't mean denial. It means development. God is preparing her, not punishing her, and her patience in that process is her praise. Her prayer life has made her fearless. She has learned that a woman who prays can never be defeated because prayer keeps her aligned with heaven. She doesn't rely on her emotions to lead her. She relies on God's voice, and that's why she stays steady when life is uncertain. Her heart is anchored. Her mind is guarded. Her faith is alive. She prays for her family, her future, her calling, and even for those who hurt her, because prayer has softened her heart while strengthening her spirit. Through surrender, she has found serenity. Through prayer, she has found power. And through faith, she has found freedom. This kind of woman doesn't live from anxiety. She lives from assurance. She knows that God's plan may not always be clear, but it's always good. Every time she bows her head, she stands taller in spirit. Every time she lets go, she makes room for God to move. And that is why she is blessed, because her peace doesn't depend on what happens around her. It flows from who she's connected to. Her life is living proof that prayer still works, surrender still wins, and faith still moves mountains. A blessed woman carries a heart of compassion and a spirit of service because she understands that true greatness is not measured by titles, wealth, or recognition, but by how deeply one loves and how willingly one serves. Her compassion flows naturally, not as an act of duty, but as an expression of who she is. She has learned that kindness is not weakness, and mercy is not naivety. They are marks of a heart that reflects the very nature of God. She sees people not for what they've done, but for who they can become. Where others judge, she extends grace. Where others turn away, she leans in. Her compassion is not selective. She doesn't show love only to those who can return it. She helps the broken, prays for the lost, comforts the lonely, and forgives the undeserving. She knows that every person she meets is fighting a battle she may not see. That awareness keeps her humble and gentle. She gives her time, her energy, her resources, and sometimes even her tears, not for applause, but because she feels the heartbeat of God for humanity. Her service is her worship. Her compassion is her ministry. This woman doesn't serve to be seen. She serves because she has seen the goodness of God. Her giving comes from gratitude, not obligation. Every act of kindness she offers, no matter how small, carries eternal weight. She knows that sometimes the smallest gesture, a smile, a prayer, a helping hand, can change the course of someone's day or even their destiny. When she serves others, she's not just doing good works. She's spreading light in dark places. She's showing the world what love looks like in action. Her compassion is powerful because it's rooted in empathy. She remembers what it felt like to be misunderstood, to be broken, to be in need, and that memory fuels her mercy. She doesn't use her blessings as a pedestal. She uses them as a platform to lift others higher. When she sees someone struggling, her first response isn't criticism. It's care. She reaches out, she listens, she helps, not because she expects anything back, but because her heart can't ignore pain when she sees it. This kind of heart doesn't come from comfort. It's forged through trials. Her compassion was shaped in seasons when she herself was hurting, yet still chose to love. She has walked through valleys that taught her tenderness, storms that taught her sensitivity, and battles that taught her to be gentle. She knows what it means to be restored by God, so she becomes a vessel of restoration for others. Every scar she carries has turned into a lesson of grace. Every pain she survived has made her more understanding, more patient, more loving. The spirit of service in her life doesn't depend on her circumstances. Even when she's tired, she gives. Even when she's overlooked, she still serves with joy. Her satisfaction comes not from recognition, but from the quiet knowing that she's making a difference. She finds strength in serving because she's aligned with her divine purpose. God uses her heart as his hands to heal, to comfort, to bless. And though the world may not always see her sacrifice, heaven does. A compassionate woman leaves a legacy that words can't capture. People remember how she made them feel, loved, seen, valued, worthy. Her love becomes the echo of God's love in their lives. She doesn't wait for the perfect moment to serve. She finds meaning in the ordinary moments. She cooks for others, prays for strangers, gives to the poor, and listens when no one else will. Her life is a sermon of selflessness, a living message that love is the highest calling. She understands that when she serves others, she's serving God. Every act of love she performs is an offering, every sacrifice a seed. And God, who sees in secret, rewards her openly, not always with material gain, but with peace, joy, and favor that can't be bought. That's why her presence brings comfort, her words bring healing, and her touch brings calm. A woman with compassion and a servant's heart doesn't just live a blessed life. She becomes a blessing wherever she goes. Her love makes others believe again. Her light drives away despair, and her faith reminds the world that goodness still exists. She may not wear a crown now, but heaven recognizes her as royalty, a daughter who carries her father's heart. That's what makes her truly blessed. She lives not for herself, but for the glory of God and the good of others. Join the journey. If this inspired you, hit like, subscribe, and pass it along to bless another life.